Okay, welcome to our tutorial that we're running today. We are looking at cutting some vinyl. So what we're doing is we're going to start out by importing an SVG file. We're then going to add some lettering to it. And finally, we're going to heat set it onto our shopping bag to make our quirky little bag. So we've gone ahead and we've opened up our Creative Drawing Simple Cut software. And the next thing we're going to do is we've got Create New selected, and we're just going to click on Next. Now, out of our techniques, we're going to use Cut. So we make sure we've got it selected, and Next. Now we need to locate our artwork. So this is the artwork that you received. Let me just find where I've got it stored. So this is the artwork that you received in your email for you to download. And as you can see here, this is our scissors and thread artwork. So we're going to go ahead and open that. So you can see now it brings you back to this page. You now need to check that you've got your correct mat selected. And we're going to finish. Okay, so you can now see that the artwork has come in on our edit screen in front of us. And you can see if you hover your mouse over each individual piece, you can see. You can also see it corresponds with the trays in our sequence tray box over here on the left-hand side. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go Edit and select all. So then we have everything selected together. We're then going to go and we're going to right click with our mouse on our image in the center here. And out of our drop down menu, we're going to select Combine. So what you can see now is in our sequence tray, that's brought all those trays together into one single tray. So what that means is that you don't have any chance that you pick up one of the components in here, say in the button here, and accidentally move it out of place or anything like that. So once we have done that, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to check that it's centered in our mat. So to do that, we come up here to our tool options and we just double check that we've got 0 on our X axis and 0 on our Y axis. So that will allow us to know that we are all nice and centered in that mat area. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some text. So to do that, we're going to click off our design that we've got already, so we don't have it selected. So when we had it selected, you can see there, when we had it selected, it had that nice little box around it, and we click off, and we have nothing selected. So to create some text, you come over here to the left-hand toolbar, and you can see there's a big letter T, and it says Edit Text. So we're going to click on that. We're going to come up here to our font, and depending on what fonts you have on your computer, will influence what fonts you have in your software here. So you can see down here I've got a few decorative ones that you could use. Today we're going to use Impact. So we click on Impact and then we come over here to our mat and we click on our mat. Let's just bring that up. So you can see now that we've got that large cursor there that's flashing. And we're going to type in the word so. So all capitals, like so. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to click on our right rectangle selection up here. So what that does is just finalizes that editing that we were doing, and now you have that as an actual design aspect. Okay. The next thing for that is we're going to change the color to black down there, and we're going to change our sizing. So we want to check up here in our tool options that you've got proportional selected. So that's ticked there. So what that means is when you adjust your height in this case, it will automatically readjust your width to keep that same sizing. So we're going to change our height to 2.5 inches. Then we're going to move it into where we want to put it. So you can see here, if I hover my mouse over the lettering, it comes up with 4 little arrows. So if I hold my left click down on my mouse, I can then drag that down to where I want to put it, like so. Okay. So let's get this centered a bit. There we go. Okay. So now that we've created our lettering for so, we're going to select it again. Make sure we've got that little box around it. We're going to come up to our top toolbar, and you'll see there we've got copy. So we're going to click copy and then paste. And if you look on your mat, you can't actually see where it's been pasted. But if you look in your sequence trays, you can see that we've got so is in tray 2 and so is in tray 3. So we know that we've got it copied. Sorry. We're now going to move it down to the bottom. So we're just going to pick it up and drag it down like so. There we go. Just center that out again. There we go. So I'm going to check that I've got them the same area. Here we go. Okay. So we've clicked off of it, so we have nothing selected now. So we're going to go over and we're going to create the word much. So we're going to click on our edit text again. This time we're going to change our font again, and we're going to change it to Comic Sans MS. There we go. And we're going to click on our mat. So you can see here I've clicked away. If I click close to where it says so, it will bring up the cursor next to it. So we don't actually want it right next to it. We want it separated. So we can sort of click anywhere you like on your screen and then drag it into place. So we're going to type in much, like so. That didn't work. Let's try that again. There we go. We're going to select rectangle selection to complete it. We're going to change it to black. We're going to increase its height again. So this time to 1.5. Enter. And we're going to move it into place. So I'm going to pick it up and move it over here. There we go. Yep, pretty happy with that. Maybe just a little bit lower. There we go. Okay. we're going to go and we're going to create the next set of text, which is fabric. So you can see there we've already got the font selected. We're going to select it. We're going to change the color. We're going to change the size and move it to where we want it. Like so. Okay. The next set of lettering will be little. We do that the same way. Type it in. Change the color. Change the size. And move it into place. Bring that up just a little bit. Okay. And finally, time. Change the color. Change the size. And move it into place. Like so. Okay. Okay. I'm going to change our SVG file to black inside as well. It just helps. I find the only reason I have changed the actual internal colouring, so the fill on these, is it allows me to visually see the cut files better. As long as you've got the cut files, the outline selected, you can then make your changes. We can leave it white, but I just find it's easier to see. Okay, so we've got everything we want included in what we're going to cut. The next thing we need to do is we're going to select all, and we need to tell it what we're going to cut. So we come over here to our object properties and we click out our cutter presets down menu and we select vinyl. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to change our cutter speed to 35 and press enter. The reason I choose 35 is it's a nice speed that it allows me, if I have any issues, that I have time to pause the cutter and make any adjustments if I need to. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my cutter passes to 2. So the reason, let's just select that again. So the reason I do that is I find, especially if I'm using a vinyl for stretch fabrics and things like that, like if you're doing t-shirts, it's got a bit of stretch in it, some of the vinyls. I find that having the 2 passes gives you a nice clean cut. And I also found with the holographic vinyl that I used for the bag, the 2 passes make sure that not only the adhesive vinyl backing and the actual holographic foil, both of them cut, and it gave me a nice clean cut. So that's why I use the 2 passes. I use also with the passes, so sometimes you might find if you have vinyl and you're cutting it with the one pass and not all of it cuts, some people think that it's a pressure issue. What I usually do is I increase my passes before I increase my pressure. And the reason behind that is with the pressure, the pressure is the actual pressure of the blade and the force in which it is coming in contact with that vinyl. So you could have an issue that if you're putting more pressure on that blade, it could have an actual pulling effect with your vinyl. So I prefer to go 2 passes on the lighter pressure, so you're not putting any force on the vinyl or the fabric that you are cutting, but you're going to do that 2 lots of penetration through it, if that makes sense. Okay, so now that we've told it what we want it to cut, we've adjusted our cutting speed and our passes. The next thing we need to do, and it's very important, especially with using vinyl and letters, is we need to mirror image it. So mirror X, so the writing is back to front. Because when we go to our cutter, we're actually going to work back to front with our vinyl. Okay. Now we can send it through to our cutter. So File, Export to Cutters. Okay, so now if I just bring up a video, see if that worked. Okay, so first of all, we're going to attach our vinyl to our mat. And as you can see, I'm using a purple mat, which is the high-tack mat. And if you look closely on my mat, you can actually see cut marks. So this is a fairly older mat. And I'm using the Cricut vinyl. And that sheet of vinyl has actually been pressed out flat for about 5 days. And you can see it's still got a curve in it. So we are putting it the plastic side down, so the really shiny side down. And I'm having a little issue with it there. So we're going to use our squeegee to press it out. So the shiny side down is the side that has the transfer tape already attached to it. So I'm just using the squeegee to firmly put that vinyl down on my mat. Because it's lifting up a little bit, I'm going to actually tape some of the washi tape around the edge just to keep it firmly on that mat. I'm very a big believer on, if in doubt, tape it down. So now what we're going to do is we're going to load our mat into our cutter. And what I do is I push my mats all the way through and line them up along that front edge, and then bring the mat back towards you. And the reason I do that is it allows me then to see if I've put my mat in correctly the right way and there's no bubbles or anything in the mat as it comes back towards me. So I'm lining up my laser points, and I've got my laser point set on the bottom left corner. I'm then going to trace it. So I've pressed trace on my computer, and we're going to trace out our design and see how well it fits. So as you can see there, when I'm tracing it, it's actually sitting a little high on the mat. So it's a little bit off the vinyl at the top of the mat. So I'm going to make a couple adjustments. And then I'll retrace. Once I'm happy with the trace, I'll then go ahead and press cut on my computer. So remember how we said we're doing the 2 passes? So twice around the circle. So you can just see there with the shadow, the actual cut design starting to appear. You can also notice that I've actually got my sound turned off while recording this, so you can't hear all the quirky little sounds that the cutter makes. Nearly there. They are quite fascinating machines to watch. Okay, so now we can remove our mat from the cutter. And I leave my vinyl on my mat while I weed out my negative spaces. So to weed out the negative, I use the little artistic hook and a fine pair of tweezers. And it's just a matter of checking on the screen. So I make sure that I've got my software still open, and then I can see what is meant to be kept and then what's our negative space. So once we've done all the little internal ones, we can then take off the large excess around the area, around the edges. So you can see when you actually separate the vinyl from the clear backing, and the clear backing, which is a kind of transfer tape, is quite sticky. And if you have clear cuts, it will just separate quite easily. I like to run the hook around my letters where the cuts have been made. It just helps to release the negative vinyl a little easier. So there we go. We've removed all our negative, and we're just left with the pieces that we want to use for our cutter. So I've gone ahead and I have turned on my heat press. So the vinyl that I'm using here is the Quirky vinyl. So you can actually jump on their website and they will give you instructions on how to use a traditional iron with it. I do like my ironing press. There are other different types of presses out on the market that you can actually use um, for this. So you will find that different vinyls will require different pressing methods. So I always use my applique mat just to help protect my iron. So we go through and we heat that. And I heat it with, when I'm using my press, I use it until it beeps at me. So once again, different manufacturers will have different instructions on the vinyl. Once removed, I'll wait for it to cool. And then you can just remove that transfer sheet off. I then like to pop my bag back on the press with the applique paper and just give it another press without the plastic on it. So that's it. That's how we created our reusable sewing bags for our shopping trips. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial and I look forward to tuning in next month.